We do. I have a
Oh
play
yeah,
on
we
there
won
for tonight.
2, 3, 4 games tonight. Anything you like tonight?
So I'm going to give out my
Oh, this
favorite bet.
one, duh.
Yeah,
Nebraska, Minnesota.
my favorite bet in college football.
Oh,
And so look, before we talk about it, and this is much like when we talked about the Castellanos under 3.5 pitches, and that was a fun bet to ride for a while. And now Castellanos is going to be available apparently, which is awesome. One less Philly for me to not like in the team.
oh,
But
great.
this is a bet that's hit a lot. If you follow me on Twitter, the last 3 years has been a very profitable bet. If you look at Nebraska first quarter so far this season, they've played 5 FBS opponents. They played 1 FCS opponent. That one doesn't count. 31 points have been scored in the first quarter of the 5 FBS games total. So you divide that out, that's about 6 points per quarter. Last year in 13 games, 94 points were scored in the first quarter of Minnesota games. 2023, it was 125 points in 13 games. So Minnesota is one of these teams that still kind of huddles. They don't go as fast as everyone else, and they have a really good defense. And so this is a bet that I've played. If you follow me on Twitter, if you follow me on Action Network, I've played it almost every game this year, and it's hit a lot. So it's under 10.5 points in the first quarter. Now, it's important to get the 10.5 because it's 9.5 in a lot of places, and a touchdown, a field goal, you lose. Whereas if you pay the extra juice and you get a touchdown, a field goal, you win. And I'm also going to say, because I know if it loses tonight, everybody's going to say, well, you told everybody to take it. It's not a guarantee. Fluke kickoff return for a touchdown could throw everything off. But I'll say this, last week, Purdue scored in like 3 or 4 plays. They went up 7-0 with like 14 minutes left to go in the first quarter. No one scored the rest of the first quarter. So it's just a bet I like to play. It's no guarantee, but I really like the first quarter under in Nebraska, Minnesota. Make sure to get 10.5 because that gives you touchdown and field goal protection.
I love that David Fink said, appreciate Matt always sharing his plays. I know the newsletter gives more, but his daily posts are helpful when putting the plays together. So yeah, you guys could follow on the Mid-Major Matt newsletter at thepropqueen.com. It's like $6 and you can get all this information going into the weekend. What can people expect this weekend, Matt? What are you looking at?
Well, I mean, obviously we look at spots, and as I always like to say, spots are really good, but they're not a guarantee either. I mean, we've talked about some tremendous spots, and they haven't hit. So it's just something I like to point out to people. I'm going to try and put together, if I find any buy lows or sell highs. I didn't see any the first time through, so that's not in the newsletter right now, but I'm going to see if I can find one and send it to you for the newsletter maybe tomorrow morning or whenever you decide to send this one. But the letdown game of the day tomorrow is Auburn and Missouri. And I don't know, the reason why it's the game of the day for letdowns is because they're both going to be hungover. Auburn lost to the officials and to Georgia last week. It was a brutal way to lose. It was a huge game. Auburn's not great as it is, and to lose the way they did, the officials basically handed Georgia a lot of points in that game, and they lost. Missouri, who has been home every game so far this season, came off their bye week and lost at home to Alabama. So both Auburn and Missouri lost at home off of bye weeks to Georgia and Alabama. Huge game, to say the least. Now they play each other in the Plains in Auburn. It's Missouri's first road game of the season. I don't want to try and guess between 18, 19, 20-year-olds who's going to get over last week's disappointment, but that is kind of the letdown bowl. I'll say this also. If you're looking at Maction, Bowling Green last week had a huge rivalry win over Toledo. And it's a game that we talked about last week. On Bowling Green's campuses, they X'd out T's in any building that had T's in them because it was Toledo week. Just like how, Ohio State X's out M's on their campus. Whatever, it didn't matter because Michigan's been better lately. So Bowling Green is exciting off of the rivalry win over Toledo. They are hosting Central Michigan coming off their bye week. I really like Central Michigan's coach. The weather is going to be nasty, potentially wind and rain, which I think will play well for Central Michigan, who runs the ball nearly 70% of the time already. I think if Bowling Green's even slightly hungover, Central Michigan could be the play, maybe a sprinkle on their money line. But I like the Chippewas tomorrow on the road against Bowling Green in the rain, potentially after the Falcons beat Toledo.
We love a rainy game. We also love the Ivy League. Jamie34 wants to know, do you like any Ivy tonight? Your favorite.
I know. I should. And maybe next Friday I will come better prepared for that because I know we've gotten that question before. I just don't bet a lot of FCS football only because I don't know a lot of FCS football. Obviously, oh wait, there's no Ivy Leagues tonight. Nobody's playing there's no FCS games tonight. So there is no Ivy tonight.
Well, what about at all this weekend?
Oh, well, I was hoping you wouldn't get to that. There is one FCS FBS game tonight. Tomorrow, Oregon State is hosting Lafayette. Lafayette can score a lot of points. We talked about this in the Thursday newsletter where we pointed out, we talked about the Tulsa game and we talked about this game. Oregon State fired their coach, so there's going to be a bump potentially for them, especially if they didn't like their coach. Lafayette, long road trip out to Oregon State, a 10 o'clock start time. Lafayette's got a solid offense. I wouldn't play a lot on this game if you play it at all, but I kind of lean towards the over here. Lafayette's defense isn't great, but I think they can score some points on Oregon State. Don't love it. Don't make it one of your best plays of the day, but probably maybe a small lean to the over in the only FCS FBS game tomorrow.
How about these big games coming up tomorrow? I know that we've got like the Tennessee game. We've got Georgia. Any of those spots that you feel any of the favorites could be faded, or do you like them?
So I think that would be probably better for your next guest. Kelly probably pays attention. I mean, listen, if you wanted to ask me about, the Royal Rivalry, JMU and ODU, I can give you more.
Okay, we'll take it. You know, what do you like?
So I went to the JMU game last week. They played Louisiana.
You went to the game.
I did. I went to Harrisonburg, Virginia, a lovely campus. It is actually one of the most beautiful
my old boss went
campuses.
there. He loved it.
Really? Your old boss went to JMU?
Yeah, he did.
It is a gorgeous campus. They are one of the best defenses in the country. They are like top 5 in yards allowed. Now, some people will say that JMU's played nobody. They held down Louisville pretty well defensively, outside of one bad play at the end of the fourth quarter that kind of cemented things for Louisville. I think this is a lower scoring game. I think this is a correlated bet. If somehow you like ODU, you believe in Colton Joseph, you think last week was a mirage, which I do, and you think they're going to go into Harrisonburg and win, you're probably going to take the over because I don't think ODU wins a lower scoring game. If you like JMU in this game, it's going to be a defensive struggle. JMU's offense is like the Eagles' offense. JMU has these drives where they move down the field and everything looks great. And you're like, how do they not score every drive? And then they'll go the next 5 drives and they won't do anything. And they'll say, defense, save us. And so far this season, the defense has saved them for the most part. So I don't know how much JMU is going to score in this game. I don't know how much ODU is going to score in this game. It feels like a lower scoring game. I like JMU like 21-20. I think it's a tight game. By the way, the students need to stay all 4 quarters. Like half the students left at halftime last game when I went to it. And I guess it's a problem in any college campus, but like,
yeah, everyone used to leave Penn State games. I never understood it.
Well, I just don't understand. Like you should commit 3 hours.
Well, I understand. I know what they're doing. I used to sit in the Greek life section because I was in a sorority, and everybody by the end of the third quarter was leaving because they wanted to go get into the frat party.
Right, but they can have the frat party after the game.
I know. I stayed.
Especially if
that's why I hated the sorority.
Yeah, I mean I don't understand that. So I look, and I know you can't lock the doors. That's fire safety. You know you can't do that. But like,
I'm trying to get a new law to lock the doors of stadiums so kids can't get out.
I mean, technically you could climb over the gate still if something happened. But I get it. You can't lock the doors. I also thought, what about selling second half tickets to people? Like, okay, you don't want to come the first half, come the second half, pay half price, whatever. But like, anyway, I like JMU this week. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think you throw out what happened last week. ODU clearly wasn't focused. They had 5 turnovers. They lost the game at Marshall. By the way, we gave out Marshall last week, so that was a win. I throw that out, but this is going to be arguably one of the most fun games of the day, JMU and ODU. It's by the way, also the interesting thing for this game, yesterday, so JMU was favored by like 1.5 for most of the week. Yesterday, it flipped over to ODU minus 1.5. Then like an hour later, it flipped back to JMU minus 1.5. Now it's JMU minus 2.5 across the board. So some syndicate must have given out JMU or something, and all the followers must have jumped on it. But I think the Dukes win the game. I think their defense is just going to be up to task. This has been a very close rivalry, and I think it's going to be a very fun game. ESPNU, tune in tomorrow, 3:30, ESPNU. And then when you enjoy the game, you can thank me.
You should be the salesperson for JMU football.